Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP kicks his pregnant daughter out onto the streets. Am I the butthole for kicking my daughter out of my house for being pregnant? I'm a 45-year-old woman, and I have a 27-year-old daughter. She has 6 kids. The youngest is 11 months old. The oldest is 10 years old. She has 3 different fathers. She receives child support from 2 of them, and she's still with the 3rd one, and they've been together for the past 5 years. My daughter works part-time, and her fiancé is a chef full-time. They've lived with us for the past year and a half due to getting evicted from their last home. Her fiancé, and our kids occupy all of our upstairs bedrooms, 2 of them. But still, it's crowded for 6 children. They are constantly asking me for help with their phone bills. Me and my husband aren't asking my daughter for rent. That way, they'd be able to save up money to get a home, which I don't believe they were doing. I have to put up with loud voices throughout all hours and waking up at different hours to cater to the kids. All because I love my grandchildren. I never complain to my daughter because I believe family is very important. It's just that my children are all grown up. My youngest moved out 4 years ago, and my husband and I had hopes to remodel. We didn't expect them to be living here this long. On Christmas Eve, my daughter gathered us around and announced they were pregnant with baby number 7. Everyone was all excited, but I felt dread. This would mean another child in our home with not much room. I looked over at my husband, and I could tell he felt the same. We discussed later, and we decided that we're going to have to ask them to move out. Last night at dinner, I brought this up to my daughter and her boyfriend and told them they have 2 months to find a place because they can't have another child here. My daughter started crying, saying that she couldn't believe I'd throw her to the streets for having a baby, that this was completely unfair and not enough time. I told her I was sorry, that it was painful for me as well, but that these living conditions were impossible. She demanded I give her more time or she'd go to the courts, and I told her, newsflash, the courts will only give you 30 days. She then said that my grandkids were going to be homeless because I was selfish. She made a post on Facebook asking for rooms for rent because she's pregnant and she has nowhere to go and her family doesn't give a flip about her. Am I the butthole? OP, you have given these people 18 months of free rent, free childcare, free food, free electricity, free water, and then she has the gall to complain and say that you don't care about them? Oh man, the fact that this woman is this stupid and entitled and has 7 babies really makes me feel like the movie Idiocracy was a documentary. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your daughter 1.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for punishing my stepdaughter over a joke? My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We have a 9-year-old son together. My wife also has an adopted daughter, a 16-year-old girl. She's not really my wife's daughter. She's not exactly adopted. Technically, it's my wife's niece. Her parents abandoned her, and my wife took her in. She is the brattiest, rudest, most annoying child, but I try to tolerate her because it means a lot to my wife. Anyways, yesterday was my son's 9th birthday, and we threw a small party, family only. My son insisted that we play a game in which we each had to say what superpower we want to have, and he would tell us what weakness we would have. When it was my turn, I told him that I want to be invisible, and he said you'll be invisible, but your penis won't be. My stepdaughter then chimed in, good, you'll still be very hard to notice then. Well, that's just what Mom said, and burst out laughing. I grabbed her phone and laptop and told her she's grounded for 2 weeks and can't have her phone back for a month. My wife thinks I overreacted to a kid's joke, and I'm a butthole, but she embarrassed me in front of everyone, and I believe she deserves her punishment. Alright, first off, that is an excellent burn. And yeah, you could say that it's mean and disrespectful, but in my opinion, the stepdaughter's joke fit the overall theme and mood of the game that your son was playing. Right? He's the one who said that your penis wouldn't be invisible, so her making this jab is a very fitting and following joke that's a little inappropriate, but it's really funny. OP, your reaction to this is off the charts. Grounding her for 2 weeks and a month of no phone? For what? For a harmless little burn? I have to wonder, OP, maybe the reason why you overreacted is because her joke hit a little too close to home. I mean, OP, you said that she's the brattiest, rudest, most annoying child, but based on this post, I don't really have anything to go off of. I'm just kind of taking your word for it. You don't have any examples. This joke is just a 16-year-old's joke. It's very standard teenager humor. So I have to wonder if the rude person in the family is really the daughter or if it's you, OP. I'm giving your stepdaughter 0 out of 5 buttholes. OP, I'm giving you 1.5 out of 5 buttholes, which, coincidentally, is also the size of OP's dong in inches. Am I the butthole for telling my dad the real reason that my half-sister won't be in the same room as me? I'm a 31-year-old woman, and I have a half-sister, Ellen, who's 34. We have the same dad, different moms, and no, I'm not the result of an affair. Ellen and I are not close, and never have been. We only saw each other at family get-togethers. Ellen has a husband, Tom. Tom's a nice guy, and when she introduced him to the family, he and my husband hit it off, and my husband ended up hiring Tom to work for him. Tom and Ellen got married and had a baby, and during this time, they started having problems. I didn't hear this from Ellen, but from my dad, and from my husband who was told by Tom. Tom then started staying really late at work, and then progressed to coming over to our house often for drinks with my husband, and by extension, me. He became a regular visitor in our house and began unloading his problems. This went on for about 8 months, until one evening, Tom was quite tipsy and admitted that he developed a crush on me. Understandably, this meant that he did not come back to our house. He's profusely apologized for this, and we're fine now, but obviously I just prefer some distance. I guess this whole thing was a wake-up call for him, because he and Ellen started going to counseling. During this counseling, he told his wife about what he said, because Ellen called me and screamed at me for the whole situation. She said that she and Tom would never be in the same room with me after what I'd done. She made excuses for not coming to family gatherings that I was at for a while before my dad confronted her and said that she and I had fallen out and weren't speaking. I went along with this because I didn't want to tell my dad the truth either. It's been like this for over a year. But this all came to a head over my dad inviting both of us and our families to New Year's Eve and getting mad that Ellen wouldn't come if I was going. My dad started ranting at me that we needed to grow up and make peace, and if we didn't want to talk to each other, fine, but not being able to be in the same room was nuts. I got sick of being berated and said, I agree, but it wasn't me who started it. My dad then demanded to know what the fight was about, and he wouldn't let up. Eventually, I just told him. He was furious. He called Ellen and yelled at her. He called my husband and yelled at him. He's seething that no one told him and that he's been acting like things are fine with Tom this whole time. Ellen is furious with me for telling Dad, saying that I did this on purpose and I've ruined things with Tom after she worked so hard to fix them. I feel bad for the results, but I also feel like carrying the burden of this rift that I didn't cause was unfair to me in the first place. I kept quiet when I didn't have to, but once I was getting heat over it, it just became too much. Am I the butthole for spilling? Alright, I do think that you shouldn't have told your dad the truth because it's not exactly your secret to share. However, if your sister-in-law wanted things to stay under the wraps, then she should have taken the heat. She should have let the family know that she's the one who decided that you can't be in the same room together. So even though I do wish you'd kept your mouth shut, OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your sister-in-law 0.5 out of 5 buttholes because the only thing she did wrong here is blame you for her husband's emotional cheating. Tom gets 2.5 out of 5 buttholes for his emotional cheating. Am I the butthole for telling my mom that she should hold her husband to the same standard she holds me to? My dad died a few days after my 7th birthday. He was on his way to work and got into an accident. I loved my dad, and I missed him so much since he died. Mom and I both went into grief therapy after his death. She went for about 6 months, I went for almost 3 years. A few months before I stopped attending therapy, my mom met Mark. I didn't meet him for like a year and a bit after, but Mom told me that she was dating someone, and then when they became boyfriend and girlfriend. They got married like 7 months after I met him. I was 12. Even before they got married, Mark and my mom would call me their daughter and say that I was their kid. He would tell people that I was his daughter when he met them, whereas I always called him my mom's husband or my mom's fiance before they got married. It bothers my mom and Mark that I don't tell people that he's my dad or say my parents when I'm talking about both of them. Over the years, they've told me that it would mean a lot to Mark if I were to introduce him as my dad. Or she said that I could call him my bonus dad, but not stepdad, since that sounds far more insignificant in terms of the role that he plays in my life. I've never done this, but for a couple of years now, my mom has told me that I should be better than this, that I should think about someone else's feelings above my own. that it would cost me nothing to let people see him as my parent instead of instantly delegating him to just some dude that she's married to. She's gone on and on about thinking about his feelings and not putting my own feelings first for the whole time. I'm currently 17, and lately, it's been getting to me. So when Mom said that to me a couple of weeks ago, I told her that she should try holding her husband to the same standards she holds me to, and to ask him to put my feelings before his own. My mom told me that he already has to do that day after day when I refuse to acknowledge him as my dad in life. I told her that he had a choice on whether he wanted to marry her and take me on. I never got a choice in his place in my life. But I told her that I'm taking back that right to choose what he is to me, whether she likes it or not. She told me it was petty for me to claim that he needs to be held to the same standard when his actions don't hurt me, but mine hurt him. Am I the butthole? OP, you're right. You didn't choose Mark, your mom did. So it's not reasonable for your mom to expect you to love him the same way that she loves him. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm also giving your parents just a soft 1 out of 5 buttholes because they're doing a good job of parenting you. They just need to be more respectful of your wishes. Am I the butthole if I ate and swallowed a message from God on a tram? I'm a 36-year-old female traveling for work this week, and I had a few hours layover in the Atlanta airport. I'm tired. I've been traveling since very early this morning, and I've been on and off engrossed in a book during times of inaction to keep my anxiety from peaking. I just got off the plane, and I made my way to the tram to get to the next concourse. I noticed a lady who had been seated with me on the prior flight was also following me to the tram for transfer. As I boarded the tram to get to my connecting area, I went to the corner and opened my book. It's a simple, non-heavily brainy book and part of a well-known series and does have some explicit/smutty sections. Whatever, it's an easy read and it doesn't involve a lot of cognition to follow, and it's entertaining. The lady who was next to me on my flight ended up next to me on the sparsely occupied train and did a loud ahem. I'm not one to really engage in other people's lives, and I ignored it. She turned her head to look right at me and said, "Are you really ignoring the light?" I genuinely had no clue what she was referring to. It was really early in the morning. I had taken a red eye, and I genuinely thought that she meant the rising sun. I glanced out the window and said something like, "It's kinda cloudy, so I didn't notice." I don't fully recall. She stared really intently at me and grabbed a piece of paper out of her handbag to hand to me. This was a small piece of paper, little more than fortune cookie-sized paper. It had a Bible passage on it, something about God and the light without darkness. I do remember the passage was from the book of John. She said something about how she felt called to guide you out of this sinful darkness when she saw what I was reading on the flight, and instead of exiting the airport to go home, she knew that she was meant to follow me to my next area and show me the light. I grew up in the South, in the Bible Belt of North Carolina. And I felt all the hypocrisy that organized religion was promoting, and I had some trauma from it. I'm not proud to say that I was triggered a little, and I reacted on that trigger. I grabbed that stupid slip of paper, wadded it up, and shoved it in my mouth. I started chewing. I looked this lady in the eye and chewed and swallowed, and then I said that her BS was delicious. She immediately called me a heathen, said that I wasn't capable of grace, and she wished that she hadn't wasted her sacred message on the unworthy. She said she knew what kind of floozy I was by the filth that I was reading. I just said I'm glad she enjoyed it as well, and I provided the name of the author before exiting the train at the next concourse, even though it wasn't the one that I needed. She didn't follow, but called me an unhinged jerk before scooting away. I thought about it, and I felt a little bad about my immaturity, and I could have just accepted the paper and ignored her. I know this is a very religious city, so am I the unhinged jerk? OP, I think you're fine here. She was pushy, you were weird to counter her pushiness, though I will say you probably shouldn't eat random things that people give you. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress when she insulted my career? I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I'm a self-taught graphic designer, and I worked hard to build my career. My 25-year-old sister, on the other hand, has always been critical of my job, calling it a hobby and not a real job. Our parents passed away a few years ago, and I've been more of a parental figure to her ever since. We've had our ups and downs, but I've always tried to support her. Recently, she got engaged, and she was over the moon about planning her wedding. She found her dream dress, but it was way out of her budget. Knowing that I'd saved a bit of money, she asked me if I could pay for her dress as her wedding gift. I agreed because I wanted her to be happy. However, a few days ago, we had a family gathering where she introduced her fiancé to our extended family. During the dinner, she made a snide remark about my career, implying that I was still playing with my computer while others had real jobs. I was hurt and confronted her later. Things escalated, and I told her that if she didn't respect my career, she shouldn't expect me to fund her wedding dress with the money that I earned from it. She accused me of ruining her wedding and being petty. I'm torn. I want to support her, but I also feel disrespected. Am I the butthole? No, OP, I'm on your side. It is extremely hypocritical of her to criticize the way that you make money and then turn around and expect you to just hand her money. Also, graphic design isn't a real job? What? What is she talking about? That's not even a weird or out of left field job. It's a pretty standard job. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. Your sister gets 1 out of 5 buttholes. That was rSlash Am I the Butthole? And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.